Hello, everybody. Welcome back here. Welcome back, I guess. Welcome to Trading with Brian's inaugural YouTube frivolity on a Sunday afternoon. Actually, I guess still sort of Sunday morning here on the wet coast. I have my co-pilot here beside me. We're still trying to figure this YouTube streaming. I actually really like using these Google Meets because I did a video here this morning on the January barometer. I put a blog post out there on the Substack. Actually, I really like the format. I had actually a nice class with the one-on-one people yesterday, and I really like the format. So I'm going to really try and work away on this. As you can see, we've got the disclaimer up here as sort of the default. I suppose moving forward here, we probably should create a nice flashy, splashy title page. If anything, it might be a good idea. We do actually, I do see here, and I'm going to have to interact with Chris because in a weird sort of way, you guys are all going to be kind of like guinea pigs for this first video. But I do see in here there is a copy link. Would you like me to share that with you, Chris? I don't know whether that makes any difference. Anyway, I just did share that with you. We've got TwB Weekly Markets in Review show. So, hey, that's the name of the show. But, that might be fun. We should maybe make like a contest, a naming for these fun, Sunday shows. And, maybe what we'll do is we'll throw in like, I don't know, a year's subscription to the site or something like that for the winner. So everybody who does watch this, and I got to say, actually, I'm pretty darn impressed. Quite a few people have signed up to the new site and service. If anything, I'd like to encourage all of you to sign up for the site and service to help the cause. I don't know whether the month of January here I'm really going to be too shilly. I think it's more just sort of like we're just getting our feet underneath us on nice solid ground. Got to get the one-on-one people up and running and rocking and rolling. And we've got pretty much a full class. There's one student who's a bit or is MIA right now. I'm still trying to figure out where the heck he is. Did have a few people actually ask, because I think I said in the on the Discord server for the TwB service, I had said that there was 1 or 2 seats that look like they might be freeing up. The simple deal is that I work with, ideally, I don't want to work with more than 10 people. All right. And actually, cool. Chris is giving me something. I'm going to, the only question here is how the hell do I do all this? Right. Let's see if I go like this. I wouldn't mind trying to at least get this out on some sort of public notification. So maybe, and of course, what a screwed up world, eh? And if anything, it makes perfect sense, Alan world. You don't even know what the hell to call platforms anymore. And really, I like the functionality of this Twitter page as a way to interact with my audience, these particular people. And it's fascinating how some people, and it makes perfect sense because I can understand Alan is quite polarizing type of person. But some people like to use this platform. Some people like to use, Instagram and all that. Anything, I think we're probably going to have to get an Instagram account going in the not too distant future. Man, a hell of a lot of people are using TikTok, eh? Anyway, let's see if we can get this video announcement out to the world. And we got to get Chris thinking a little more PMA here. Got to remember that's our official tag. I don't know what I've done with the screen though, because I do see that the disclaimer's gone weird, and I don't even know what I'm showing on the screen. This is where this stuff gets dangerous. Am I still even recording? Hey, there I am. Yeah, I'm still alive. Okay, good. Phew. Okay, so let's see. I guess maybe, you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a little screen jockeying. This could get a little crazy here. I don't want this over here. Stop sharing. Oh boy, there's hey, Chris is the main show now. Bet you didn't expect that. Okay, now let's put you over here, and then let's put you over here, and then connect the dots, and then we'll go screen share, and we'll go entire screen, and then we'll go there, and oh, and I hate when I do this. What's this? Bring the call back here. Of course, you knuckle hands. Okay. Well, anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed that fun little ride. But anyway, we did a little bit of repositioning here. And if I'm not mistaken, I think what happened here is that my sort of image is on the right-hand side over here or wherever it is. But anyway, well, let's see if we can have some fun here today. Got that note there out on the Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's supposed to be. So we'll see whether that gains any traction. There it is there. I think what I'll also do is, have we actually even posted this on the room? Mind you, oh yeah, there you go. So Chris is rocking it. Thank you, Chris. Chat has been turned on. Refresh if you don't see it. All right, cool. I'm not quite sure how we're doing that, but I guess Chris is running the show from that side. And I suppose we could also throw this in here. What the heck's going on here? This is not the place to be posting anything trading related. Right. Chris says to me, if you want to chat with people on YouTube. Oh, cool. All right. Well, that's a bonus. We're sort of figuring out this as we go here. My apologies, everybody. Hack Job Central. Now, where the hell am I going to put that page? Maybe over here. But not on that screen. Let's put it over on this screen. Okay, where is Chris? Chris and Boosh. Let's see what we got going on over here. Actually, be kind of cool to see if there's anybody actually watching this video. Hello, come in Tokyo. And actually, I'd be curious to see what the actual YouTube feed looks like. Oh boy, let's see what we got here. Oh, hello. Okay, that's what it looks like. Fascinating. New. Managing moderators can support your channel in even more ways. I think that's what Chris is doing right now. So that's kind of cool. Hey, look at that. This is like deja vu. Warning, the stream's current bit rate is lower than recommended. Oh, no, not that crap. Hey, look at that. Hey, Casey. Oh, I was really worried whether I was going to lose you, Casey. Hey, there's Nick over there on YouTube. Hey, Nick. Elavorn Leoden. Elavorn Leoden. That sounds like a knight from the Middle Ages. Sir Elavorn Leoden of Northamptonshire. Anyway, all good. Hello. Eogan. Hello, Eogan. I'm probably completely butchering your guys' names. Sorry. Hello, Michael. Hello, Jawal, 3879, if that is your real name. You actually look more like a 3845, if you ask me. But all right, fine. My bad. That was me in the Discord with those names. Wasn't sure of the etiquette. Yeah. And actually, that's not a bad sort of purpose for today's call. It's sort of, let's just try and figure out how all this crap's going to work. I am quite pleased with the way that this Google Meet, and we sort of signed up for the full meal deal service. I think that that Google has their AI, so they'll sort of do the transcripts and all that crap. I have to tell you, for whatever it's worth, and I think I have the X thing higher on the screen, is somebody actually the other day had actually posted out the new terms of service of this Allen nightmare. And what's so funny is that the robots are thanking Allen for going and buying more of their politicians. I mean, do you think anybody else in the world would be able to actually like insult Trump and insult Besant to their faces? The only reason why he can, of course, is because he owns all their asses, because he just throws bags of money at them. But anyway, this world. Now, what the hell was I talking about there a second ago? Oh, yeah. No, I lost my train of thought again. Geez, every time I talk about Allen, it always triggers me. Anyway, now officially 2026, so TwB is live. I'll tell you, it was damn difficult there the past 4 or 5 months trying to keep this thing under wraps as long as possible. Every once in a while, I did let it slip out, but I hope I wasn't much of a shill for this over the past few months. And, you know, for the record, on balance, best wishes to the principals of TRI, left on a relatively amicable basis. They had a couple bucks in the kitty, so I don't think anybody's going to go bankrupt over there. I don't have any ties with the company anymore, or relationships or anything with any of them. So, you know, bon voyage, best wishes, all the best, good luck. Now let's move forward. Actually, over the course of my career teaching, can you actually say I have a career of teaching? I can't believe how long I've actually been teaching. I had one student of mine who he really excelled in he's a super smart guy. The guy's a PhD anyway, but just absolutely brilliant gentleman. And he really bought into my weekly commodity trend survey study. That I used to do this report basically for my commodity brokers. I would just simply go through the entire commodity sector. There's about 45 different markets you can trade in commodities land. And just simply use this really simple grading metric just to tell me where is price relative to 52-week highs and 52-week lows. Obviously, if price is up near 52-week highs, I probably don't want to buy it. And if it's down at 52-week lows, I probably don't want to sell it. And then just use a really, really simple, keep it simple, stupid moving average system. 13 EMA, 30 SMA on a weekly chart works really, really well, just as a sort of trending tool. And when the 13 EMA crosses the 30 SMA and we're well below the 50% level, those are actually attractive ideas. When the 13 EMA crosses below the 30 SMA and price is up near the 52-week highs and we're well above the 50% level, those are generally pretty good short ideas. But what this kind of just simple model does, it actually tells you not to do anything like 90% of the time. Because 90% of the time, market's somewhere around this sort of 50% level. That's, WDCAN 101. Opportunities to actually take a trade in the market should be, few and far between. They don't happen every day. So I like this kind of approach. It just keeps you honest and it keeps you sort of focused on areas that have fairly high probability of just doing nothing more than returning back to the mean. And it keeps you focused away from chasing. and buying stupid up markets and FOMO and all that kind of crap. So I will probably be making reference to John's page here. It's a free service. In fact, I told him specifically, if you charge a fee for this service, the exchanges will come back and shit on you because, of course, all this wonderful data that he's consuming. But if you disseminate it for free, I don't think they can really come back at you, but don't quote me on that. Bottom line here, of course, is this is a weekly analysis, so it's slow, but it's a good way to just keep you honest in the marketplace. 5 years ago, it would have had you buying silver. There's no way you'd be buying silver at $70, $80 today. And what's actually super cool about this is if you go to the different subsections, and he even tricked out all my fundamental analysis screening models. He's even got the secret options formula on here. He's got crypto on here versus USD versus BTC. I mean, I got to tell you, the guy is absolutely brilliant. He's Mr. PhD. I don't know whether I have the tweet handy here, and he's an absolute sweetheart of a gentleman. And if that's the one thing that actually does resonate well with me is, generally speaking, I'm trying to be the PMA guy. I'm trying to make a positive difference. So what ends up happening in this universe is I'm actually attracted, kind of like magnets, other people that are really positive, trying to make a positive difference, all that. It's like a magnet that gets stuck to me. And this is great. I love being surrounded by these people. So this is Jonathan. I know he probably doesn't want to be too public, but he is a doctor. Let's call him Dr. Meyer. He is the architect of this. I'll be using this service quite a bit in the near future, just to simply have a basis to talk to you from a rational perspective. Right? We actually have an engine that just says, look, it's okay to be focused here, and maybe you're asking for trouble if you're focusing there. It's just that simple. So I did find it interesting going through this universe, and look how big the universe is. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of issues. I think there's probably about 3,000 issues in his universe here. I won't get into the individual screen stock conversation today. I suppose you probably all want to look at crypto, but I do find interesting is there are actually a few buy signals there, a ton of hunting buys. Look at how proportionately disconnected it is. Right now, you've got about 2 cryptos that are actually in positions where you go, you know what? I wouldn't mind hunting a short there. You got 150 or 146. I wouldn't mind hunting along there. And frankly, it makes sense. I think I told somebody this recently that I think actually if it wasn't for the fact that I was unwinding that previous partnership and getting the hell out of Dodge, I would probably actually make the argument that little old ladies should be just slowly hoovering up all the little cryptos out there and just accumulating. At some point, this silly public will flip around and they'll start bidding this crap back up again. And, little old ladies will be banging out doubles like crazy. So, and I would suggest all of you, there's really no change to this. In fact, you might even argue that there's probably quite a few altcoin, shitcoin, shultcoin, whatever the hell you want to call them, bag holders sitting out there pretty damn disgruntled right now. They got completely screwed out of a bull market there thanks to that Trump clown, including his kid. His kid is even made to look like a total idiot in this space. So I'm sure there is a day of vindication. The irony, and wouldn't it be the absolute beautiful irony that we actually find that the day that the Democrats take control of the Congress and we get some sort of normalcy back to this fucked up world we're in right now, Excuse my French. I really got to stop swearing like that. But we get some normalcy. And I even told somebody, that idiot who's tweeting out, "Oh, thank you, Elon Musk, for throwing bags of money at the Republican Party. Thank you so much." Doesn't really do anything. All he's doing is buying politicians so he can run around looking like a little know-it-all. But anyway, blah, blah, blah. It's the captain of the know-it-alls here. But damn it. As soon as I mention fucking Alan, I get all fucking sidetracked again and start swearing. Anyway, the point being, it is interesting that there is way more crypto on the hunting buys than there is on the hunting sells. And I think that's a pretty good, simple anecdote of how this kind of tool works. It's interesting, like the industry, basically broader industrial base, you can actually see it's fairly balanced, with about 50% of the issues. So what? A few more, actually, not even 50. I guess about two stocks actually are trying to bottom or looking cheap relative to one stock looking toppy and looking a little expensive. So that's kind of interesting. This is interesting. Look how many little buy signals, and that's when you have both the market down at the bottom end of the range, and it's starting to show signs of trending. 81 signals in the stock market versus only 3 sells. So that's got to be pretty telling. I do think, though, that I need to work with Jonathan. So this isn't certainly not a finished product, and since it's free, nobody has any cause to bitch and complain. But just the point being that I'll be using this quite a bit going forward, just as a nice, simple trend identification tool. And I guess the reason why I mention this is because when I was going through this today, names started to jump out at me that I was like, wow, you know what? I think actually I want to go pick some of that stock up. So I did find it interesting. And I mean, look at the work that Jonathan does here. This is one of the core concepts of my advanced program, sector rotation, trading seasonality and stuff that I really don't talk to students too much about in the beginning part of their education. This is more advanced stuff. But isn't this beautiful how he has this all nicely laid out on an annual basis where you should be thinking about having your money working and stuff based on seasonality perspective. But I guess what I noticed, which kind of jumped out, look how he has this so pretty. It's incredible. So agriculture, if it gets a half decent rating, he gives it a nice green color. And then names you probably want to avoid. They're in red. It's super, super cool. So you get a nice little short list, shopping list. They're not necessarily buys. What I would just simply say, if you are on the TwB site and you're part of the Discord, of course, I am encouraging everybody on the site to have this handy. I mean, this gives you a nice little filtering tool of just, what are names. I mean, if you're thinking about shorting, you have an absolutely beautiful list of stocks that are probably, overpriced and ripe to get whacked. It's just so pretty. So when I was going through this earlier, one part of the look at all those damn banks, all super strong. And if anything, this makes sense too, because the Fed down in the States is now starting to lower interest rates. I don't know whether a lot of these are actual banks. I didn't know Marigold Companies, that's a bank. Hive Digital Technologies, is Hive now actually considered a bank? Bitfarms? Huh, that's interesting. Anyway, it is interesting how the Fed is lowering interest rates. So what part of the yield curve does that support? Financial institutions. Technically, their profit margins are being padded by the Fed lowering interest rates. So actually, it shouldn't surprise us that bank stocks are all very, very attractive according to this screening system. Look at them all. Jesus H. you know what? Hey, look at that. Argo Blockchain PLC ADR. Ooh, look at that. I mean, Jesus, got a whole shopping list of stuff to look at here. Isn't this incredible? It's such a cool site. Anyway, what I wanted to show you, but now I've been distracted. I think it was the commodities industry. I was looking at this earlier this morning, and I noticed things like Dow Chemical. Look at this cool chart. And I think they're paying a half decent yield. They've been in the doghouse for quite a while. But I bought some of that Conagra recently. I love big, fat, juicy dividend paying stocks down here that you can just buy and sort of forget about for the next 5-10 years. I don't like the debt that they're carrying, but this is a pretty big company. But look at that. They're paying, what is that? 8% dividend yield. They should probably cut that dividend. But look at that, they got a pretty healthy cash balance. They can at least cover that dividend for the next little while. Not overly impressive with them losing money here, but you can see they are trying to clean that up. Probably as soon as this flips back to profitability, the stock's going to take off. And you can see, look at the cute little bottom that's trying to come in down here. So, this is just a good example of there's the squiggly lines. Ooh, look at all the pretty squiggly lines. I don't know whether you necessarily need to get too wrapped up in the squiggly lines, but just and what I love about what Jonathan's done here is he has the age of the trend. And I'll tell you, this is really, really powerful stuff. If you can simply hunt for markets that have been trending in one direction forever, well, nothing goes on forever in this world. Never say never. So, but anyway, the point being that the best trades I've ever found are the ones where the trend just keeps going and going and going, and that gets ridiculously overextended. Then the public gets to the point, you all see how Bitcoin acts at the end of its long runs, where the public thinks it's going to the moon, and those are the best shorts ever. And then, conversely, these all are down at the bottom end of their ranges. When they've been trending in one direction for a solid year, just imagine if you were a shareholder sitting here long Dow Chemical for the past year, just watching the train wreck unfold day after day, week after week, month after month. I mean, sure, you'd drive crazy. At some point, this thing's going to have its bounce. I mean, it's coming. So anyway, I'm so excited to be working with John again. It's kind of an odd start to this video, but sort of hacking our way here into our new reality. I wanted to point that out to as many people as possible. That number one, I'll be using this, and then number two, it's free. So if you can take advantage of it, I would strongly suggest you do take advantage of it. It's there, ready, awaiting, and of course, anybody that I work with at TwB, don't be surprised if I make direct reference to this going forward. I'm not exactly sure how I even want to really address today. Oh, nice to see. We've got a few more people that are joining us over there on the YouTube page. If anything, what we do need to do, and it's just because, I'll just be perfectly blunt with you. I've got a bit of a superhero assistant, so I've been actually very blessed in that regard to get this venture off the ground. So thank you, Lord, for bringing Mr. Super Assistant into my life. But let's call a spade a spade. There's probably about 3 or 4 jobs that need to be done to run one of these sort of social media platform kind of things. Ideally, of course, I want to run a trade desk. And actually, I'm at the point now where we have enough of capital to run a trade desk. So Mr. Assistant is wearing one of those hats. And frankly speaking, I think he'll probably hold on to that job until everything else fades away. I don't know. I think people are messaging me. Must have done something wrong here. What happened? Can you see this? I think you wanted to mention this 2 weeks in. Uh, you mean about finding the social media assistant? I wasn't even really going to go down that road. I just wanted to give you a compliment. That's all. I mean, my assistant, I'm not naming names, and as you can clearly see, he's talking to me right now. I just wanted to give him a shout out. He's done an absolutely incredible job. But anyway, the point being that if I have my druthers, I would just personally just like to trade and probably going. I think probably what I will do is just go back and get my prop trading account refunded there with Top Step and just resume the life that I had before I went down this crazy rabbit hole with this partnership that I did 10, 15 years ago. And as I've told everybody over the years, I could be doing this at a prop firm. I could be doing it as a broker. I could be doing this as just the social media sort of website kind of thing. But I would be doing the same thing anywhere. Like this is just who I am. It's in my DNA. My mother was a teacher. My mother was a math major. There's a fun degree. And my father was engineering physics. If you know what that is, that's like one of the hardest degrees in university to get. And my mother, she actually went into the profession of being a math teacher. Well, that sounds like fun. But clearly, I have that sort of teacher kind of DNA in my blood. And of course, you know how much I love math and numbers and all that kind of stuff. So I guess that shouldn't surprise us. But anyway, the point that I was just simply making was that if I have come across as a bit of a shill, it's just simply because I just want that basic cost covered. I would personally prefer, to be perfectly honest with all of you, just to go back living my life of trading. But I have this funny little you certainly don't want to use the word curse. I'm sure the good Lord would not like that. Hey, is it a gift? I'm not sure. But you all know my story. The wife, bless her heart, I have no idea where she is. I haven't heard from her in a while now, which is so sad. Anyway, the love of my life. Actually, it was interesting in the class when I was talking to the students for the first time yesterday. Talking about her and my story and all that actually brought myself to tears just thinking about her again. Sure miss you, Jojo. Anyway, I honestly believe that she came to me from the afterlife. And literally since that moment, I've spent literally every single waking moment since then just thinking about how I can make a positive difference in this world. And the thing is, I don't really have that many skills to really offer. But, I've been at this silly financial services game for a while, so I think I picked up a skill or two here. And so a big priority of mine is to just keep this, how can we make a positive difference in all of your people's lives, this train going. But at the same time, too, there are minimal costs associated with these things. I went down the partnership route to fund some of those basic costs, but that was maybe not the best decision on my part. But no doubt about it, I'm out of pocket doing this. And it has been a fairly significant priority here to build basic revenue sources to make sure that at the very least this venture is just scratch. So my apologies if I come across as a little bit more shilly than I have in the past, but I would ideally like to see, just FYI for all of you, what my objective is here. I would ideally like to see that this Substack membership, and it's getting up there. We got about 350 subscribers now. and I think probably about a 10% full subscriber list. I'd like to see this get up to the point where it does pay for somebody being the admin person and being able to manage this. Did the screen share move over there? Yeah, it did. I see Solari's over there. Whenever you see somebody type in Brian, it's like, what? What did I do? Anyway, hello, Solaris. Geez, your damn 49ers are looking good, OA. But if I'm not mistaken, I think Mr. Darnold, didn't he school you guys a little bit there the other day? I don't know whether I can show my face in Sacramento because unfortunately I am a Seattle fan. I don't know when Canada will get NFL teams. I used to be a Buffalo fan when I lived across the border from Buffalo in beautiful St. Catharines, Ontario, if anybody knows where that is. But since I've lived here on the wet coast, I have turned into a Seattle fan. And interestingly enough, I was an SC fan for many years. So under Pete Carroll, that it was a natural transition to be a fan of Seattle when he moved there. But Solaris, of course, are Niners fans. So, but wow, what an interesting, and I gotta say, you know, yeah, it was a very interesting game. I'll tell you that much the other day. But anyway, back to the story. And this, of course, is a bad habit of mine. I'll go off on 20 different directions, right? But the basic plan here is I would encourage, like the way that I'm going to do this, and I don't know whether I stick with Alan. Frankly speaking, I really did. This guy just leaves such a bad taste in my mouth that I may just, maybe just make the jump to Instagram or maybe even do TikTok. Who fucking knows? Mind you, I'm not a TikToker type person. But I happen to be on this platform. Why I chose this guy, I actually didn't mind. I think isn't it Jack Dorsey? Wasn't he the guy who was first behind all this? I didn't really mind that. But anyway, the point being that I definitely do not want to extend this relationship with this platform. Go read the terms of service. Yeah, this right here, this guy here, this David Lucky, right? I mean, it's shocking. Basically, Alan here is, I think to all intents and purposes, he wants to create his robot army, his legion. And I have a funny feeling he's going to fancy himself like a regional warlord after the United States dissolves into some sort of civil war. Man, you listen to all the rhetoric coming out of the States these days. Whew, is it nasty? And I don't think it's going to get any better here in the near term. So I don't know whether I'm going to stay on this platform, but the point is that I'll just do like one-liners, just sort of like catchy images, whether it be things like, maybe just a brutal shill kind of message. And Mr. Mo, if you're out there, would really like to hook back up with you, sir, if you could. Mr. Mo was the gentleman who put together these images for me a million years ago. So adorable. Anyway, and then, like here, for example, just threw up a couple images, quick little one-liner on what I'm seeing. And that's an absolute limit that I use this Twitter platform for. Don't go down this rabbit hole. And I don't want to waste the time here broadcast today talking about all the negativities about this, but I would strongly suggest that you actually try and dislocate yourself from this social media crap, and especially the way AI is working its way in here. Very bad for the human soul. This stuff is very bad for the human soul. So use these platforms, absolute minimum. Just get a nice little tease message out. And the only reason why I'm using this platform, like I said, There happens to be 18,000 people here who seem to like listening to me. If I could find a better, more efficient platform to use, just suggest it. In fact, what would probably be smart is now, when nobody's really that interested, is I make that transition to the crypto decentralized version of these social media platforms. That would be a very smart move on my part right now. The only problem is that Beamish guy really that smart? Who knows? Anyway, so you Twitter, all that crap, there it is. What should happen, this is in my sort of ideal fantasy world, is I will do write-ups, and for instance, January barometer. This is a pretty important report. And anybody who watched the January barometer through last year, I think they were kind of left in awe about how ridiculously accurate it was. I don't know whether we'll get that same degree of accuracy this year. I mean, what, if anything, that's a problem with these indicators, is if they start getting too accurate, then too many people start following them, and then they start losing their accuracy. You're like, what the hell? But anyway, then over on the Substack, I actually do thorough write-ups. This theoretically is behind a wall, and hopefully this information is somewhat private. We'll see what Substack says. And if you want to participate in this regard, you can sign up for the Substack completely free. You can read through the post. You'll get notified when the posts happen. And the information is right there for you. And I'll embed sort of supplementary, complementary information posts as it goes. And so I've done that here basically for the January barometer. And then along with, classic shills. And I have to be careful here because we do have a very structured format on how these things go. But unfortunately, the blog post can only be so long, so I have to be careful not to talk too much. And you can see I love to talk. Blah, 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 blah. And then, as sort of an added service, and this is where really the value comes into the proposition, is we'll have set up a Discord server over here, Trading with Brian. This happens to be the public room. So anybody who's a free member on the Substack, we'll be more than happy to add you to the public front facing. But you can even see this person here. Hey, I want to look at this. And I said, this is not the place to post any of this kind of stuff. Sorry. Just, if you want to talk stock, you want to talk charts, well, come on in. And the interesting thing is I'm not asking a ton of money from you people. That to sign up for the members service of this is like $17 a month. I mean, come on. If you're even participating in the market and you're worried about $17 a month commitment, $200 a year kind of thing, I don't think you should be participating in the market. But as I said before, and the whole point of why I'm mentioning this, and I want this right on record from the get-go, is I need to cover the nut. I don't want to go backwards on this, and what is a typical admin person's salary? What does it cost to have like a school assistant? Pay them a realistic wage, not like, $5 an hour. So please understand, if you do hear that there's a bit of shill in this message of late, well, I think it's justifiable. And then finally, as a dovetail for those people that have done the full subscription, each of these blog posts, I plan to do a video walkthrough of the post to explain in real terms, real language, just talking human to human. This is where I think AI completely fails. How do you subtly interpret this information? How do you incorporate it into your trading plan? What am I going to be doing going forward? How does this help me? How can it help you? What are my expectations? So I hope, I don't even know whether that's even a sales pitch or not, but I hope you understand the flow that I'm going for here. And then, as I said, obviously, if I'm making videos available on the Substack, then I'll be posting everything and all that kind of stuff in the members lounge here. And what's really cool about this is I'm just basically going to do everything I've done over the years. I used to have a secret options formula club when I was a broker, actually doing the secret options formula. Harmonicans are harmonicans. They always have a very unique perspective on the world. I like to give harmonicans their own playpen. I haven't really had too many harmonicans pop into the new site, but the room is there for them if they want to play. Of course, little old ladies, nanny nibblers. If Graham ever wants to come around and quarterback the nanny nibbler side of the equation, always. I reached out to Graham and I haven't heard from him. And unfortunately, I think life has been very difficult for Graham of late. But, if you do hear this, my heart's with you, sir, and I miss you dearly. Obviously, crypto, crypto tastes great. I actually think crypto actually isn't such a terrible investment down here. Other than, I'm not looking for moonshots here. If anything, I don't turn bullish of the space until next year, but I definitely think there's going to be a technical bounce here. And then, of course, we've got, all our day traders and all that kind of fun stuff. For lower time frame trade setups, swing trades, day trades. In fact, actually, I had somebody ask just the other day, well, do you help people who are swing traders? Well, of course. And actually, I was even talking about this is it's great how this all dovetails. Because I was even trying to explain through the January barometer that actually the universe is a fractal. Where did I say that? Where did I say that? Yeah, right here. I personally take the January barometer further. I believe the universe is a fractal. And as such, if the behavior exhibited through the entire month ought to reflect the entire year, then really the pattern should actually work the other direction as well. So that means technically, if you have a setup that works on a daily chart, you could technically have the exact same technical setup off like a 15-minute chart, 30-minute chart, 4-hour chart, weekly chart, monthly chart, yearly chart. It all zooms in and out completely appropriately, right? The universe is a fractal. And if you want actually a really good anecdote of that is, actually, I think I have it up here. On the front page, I've included a links list here so everybody can access this. I think it's read only. I don't think you can actually edit it. But in essence here, all the basic links that I think people will, want to use on a regular basis. Still have to fill out all our training protocols here for all of you. And keep in mind, these documents are a work in progress. So this stuff will fill out over time. There's John's site that I walked you through earlier. I think everybody should take advantage of this. Why you wouldn't is beyond me. But anyway, Steven's Harmonics. I sure hope Steven's around watching. And if you are watching, Steven, reach out to me, please. Need you in the fold ASAP. And here you can see, like, sort of the logic of this is supposed to go like Twitter X, then to the Substack, and then to the YouTube channel. And what should happen, I don't know whether I have here's the YouTube channel. Theoretically, there should be and I guess that's what this is here. There should be a section of these weekly shows, kind of like the way that I did that. I don't know. Zirkala, I don't know whether you're aware, but his wife, she, I think she passed. And things got very, very bumpy for him. Anyway, and I can't speak for him. I DM'd him the other day and I haven't heard back from him. I'm a little bummed. Same thing with Marat. Marat, where the hell are you? if you're watching this, can you please reach out to me and say hello? You and I need to talk. Anyway, back to our thing here. So, actually, I just did that January barometer special report for the Substack. Happy New Year's and all that. So this video, after this is done, you can go watch half hour, 45-minute rant about the January barometer if you want. I'm still getting over I don't know whether there's a cold or a flu, so I still feel kind of crappy. My ears plug up. So if you see me doing that, as I'm trying to unplug my ears. Anyway, there was a reason why I pulled this up here. Why the heck did I want it? Was something I wanted to show you. Whole bunch of fun links that I've liked to make reference to in the years. I used to when I was and actually you got to be careful about, because you don't want to get copyright strikes and stuff. But I used to, whenever I was talking about the bot, I'd go, "It's alive," and I'd always play this clip in the lounge and stuff like that. Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Anyway, fun. And actually, I found a really cool site of all my old sayings and stuff. Of course, still has TRI stuff on it, but it's somebody else's website. So I don't think I get in trouble just referencing it. This is a person's, bring out the donkey. Do you guys remember bring out the donkey? I mean, some of these lines are absolutely priceless. So I'm so glad I found that again. So anyway, so there's a whole bunch of sort of nostalgic links and stuff. YouTube videos out the butt, trying to learn how to be a better trader and all that kind of fun stuff. Now, there was something in particular I wanted to show you. Actually, I am a really big fan of the celestial events. And actually, I just learned of a study that was done by RCA back in the 1950s that actually completely validates my whole planetary influences on Earth theory. So, and not necessarily Earth, but the humans. Anyway, a whole bunch of various different links that I like to use. There's that celestial tools. I love to use this. So if you ever see those planetary images, and oh, by the way, we actually have a huge one coming up here. I mean, I was actually talking to a celestially motivated guy recently. I haven't talked to in quite a while. I was quite surprised to hear from him. Still wondering where my money is, but I doubt I'll ever see my money ever again. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. But this right here, look at this. This is a huge celestial event. You've got Jupiter, Earth, Venus, Mars, and Venus and Mars are opposition to the sun on Earth, with Jupiter backstopping the Earth behind us. This is a very, very significant celestial event date. Now, what's fascinating, I showed you guys before, Olga, who is another fan of GAN and celestial angles and bodies and stuff. She's obviously hugely into this. Cole, local trading god, he follows these, and he really clued me into the eclipse cycle. And actually, I did some really good work recently on the eclipse cycles. Did a blog post about, write a video on that and stuff. So I hope you guys get to watch that on crypto cycles and risk cycles with eclipses. But ironically enough, the last time that the planets actually made this alignment, it was just right, like literally months before the crash of 1987. Oh, that can't be an accident. There is the planetary relationship, and there it is now today. SpaghettiOs. And the irony of it all is the only reason why she remembers it is because that was the day that she met her husband. Not that she made a fortune in the stock market. No, that was the day I met my husband. Top of the market to you. Anyway, be forewarned. This is a huge event celestially. And I don't know, is there anything that's happening of somewhat historical significance going around the world right now that might just so happen to align with this crazy ass event that you only see happen about once every 40 years. Oh, and you know, I you know what I found hilarious, and I was even joking in that January barometer video. I find it absolutely comical how people actually bought into this whole BRICS idea. Because quite literally, one by one, all of these BRICS nations are literally dissolving. How do you create a BRICS currency base when Iran just vanished? You really want to keep your money safe and sound in the Islamic Republic of Iran right now? What are you, crazy? What other shit shoals are there? And it's like that whole alliance base is all crumbling. Yeah, I know. People are like, no offense, but I don't want to keep my money in India. God damn, son of a bitch. I can completely understand why India is an economic disaster, judging by what's happened to my country over the past 5-10 years. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. But of course, that's got political dynamite written all over it. Russia, I think that's one of the countries in your block, isn't it? And no offense, but China's next on the chopping block. I mean, do you think it's an accident that the hyperinflation that's going on here in the anti-hegemony countries is literally bringing them to their knees? No, no accident whatsoever. So as Anvil Sparks Modeling Limited, wow, there's the name. Did your mom name you that? Sorry. Uh, as they pointed out, these commodity countries in this greed cycle, which of course favors paper assets over hard assets, these commodity countries are all being taken apart, one after the other after the other. I got to tell you, I'm just wondering when is China's GFC moment? And what's fascinating is, if this plays out the way that I think it does in Venezuela, oil prices are going to collapse here. You know, the irony of it all is that Venezuela is only producing about 10% of the amount of oil that it could regularly produce. But more importantly, and I see a lot of people in social media, they've got this, I think, completely wrong. They believe that Mr. Trump is going down to Venezuela because of Venezuela. But frankly speaking, Venezuela it's kind of irrelevant. What is relevant is who buys Venezuelan oil, who buys Russian oil, who buys Iranian oil. One customer only. They are completely and utterly dependent on these people, and it is their only leverage against their number one trading partner, the United States. And ironically enough, it actually is their Achilles heel. And I think Mr. Trump understands this. And I think that one by one, all of China's major oil suppliers are being cut off. So, put that in your pipe and smoke it. I would actually make the argument the motivation to go after Venezuela had very little to do with Venezuela or Maduro or any of the local politics. I really think the Americans couldn't give a shit. Yeah, we can wrap our arms around Monroe Doctrine to justify that kind of behavior. And there are people that are sort of like, well, is Trump going to, basically walk away from Taiwan and leave, that sphere of influence to the Chinese? And, he wants to walk away from Ukraine and leave that up to Russia's sphere of influence. I don't think it has anything to do with any of that. Me personally, I think this has everything to do. The guy fucking for like 10 years was like, China, 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 don't get China. Don't you remember that? I mean, every campaign speech, every single one, it was nauseating, relentless. China, 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 China. So there's no reason why any of that would change. And most of his policies have been to unwind this China insanity. And I think he's basically going about it. And the number one Achilles heel of the CCP, I believe, is oil. And I think what Mr. Trump simply wants to do is he wants to force China to buy U.S. oil. And ironically enough, if it's not U.S. oil, okay, well, it'll be U.S., what do they call it? Puppet state oil, which is in essence, the revenues just go to American oil companies. So whether it be Iraqi oil, I thought it was interesting. Iraq, now one of the largest OPEC producers, is basically a vassal state of the United States. A lot of people have sort of let that just slowly fade. Nobody really realizes that. They're putting the same structure into place that they had with the Shah in Iran. And how ironic. Talk about history coming full circle. Now people in the streets of Iran are actually chanting, "Death to the Ayatollah, long live the Shah." You can't write this stuff any better. Like literally 40 years ago, it was "Death to the Shah, long live Ayatollah." It's a crazy world. So anyway, I still think my number one thought here is Mr. Trump wants to force China to buy U.S. oil to balance that trade relationship. And come hell or high water, he's going to get it. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. And I think that this is your stopwatch in the sky. This is a pretty damn big celestial event that just happened. Maybe I'll even do up a video on these celestial events. I mean, do we all remember Brian's fake breast obsession, fixation, fetish? I don't know what the hell you call it. But, this is what happens. And I'll remember this, and this will definitely be in the book. I'll probably get sued, but I got to put the picture in the book anyway. It should be the front fucking cover. Excuse my French. There you go. Just piss off Google some more. But this is a perfect anecdote about how absolutely insane these humans can get through these significant celestial event windows. The humans literally go crazy. That if that's not the definition of clinical insanity, and lock that guy up in a rubber room, ironically enough, if that was 1950s America, that guy would probably be burned at the stake. But for some reason, this go round, and I think it has everything to do with the fact that this world is swimming in debt, and that the international banking cartel is, we don't give a shit about race. We don't care about your white power. You owe us interest. You bring in whatever workers you have to make goddamn fucking sure you pay interest on that debt. That's just the reality of this country. And I actually think it actually makes a heck of a lot of sense about things like manifest destiny that happened about 150, 200 years ago, where at that time, basically manifest destiny was the sociological justification for the Caucasian race to just run roughshod over North America. And of course, absolute travesty to the locals that lived in North America for like 10,000 years prior. But the banksters were like, don't care. You have to pay the interest on the debt. You do whatever you have to do. And if you have to go out into trains and just, grab your shotguns and start murdering Native Americans right, left, and center, go to war with them, slaughter them, move them, whatever, do what you have to do. You have to pay the interest on that debt. And unfortunately, this go round, it was expressed in this insanity. Oh, well, it is what it is. So, full circle here. This is a pretty big event here, celestially. And I think you're actually seeing some pretty big historical events happening to the human species here through this early 2026. And of course, I mean, the irony of it all. And, the funny thing is Josh was actually one of my favorite guys. When I was teaching at TRI. I think we even asked him to teach some of the cycles, classes and stuff in the past. And he was. I still remember my first time ever meeting Josh face to face. He was just absolutely enamored in the basement of some British pub. Um, um, Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, was super excited. I don't know what happened to him. Obviously, we had a falling out there. Too bad. Anyway, I think he's a pretty darn smart individual. He'll do well in life. But anyway, you can see Mr. Benner here is also looking for that cycle pivot here through 2026. So I do think that we are in a very significant transition window here. And unfortunately, once whatever the enthusiasm here is done, we actually have like quite literally a 6-year window of just shit ahead of us. Great. I hope you're all ready. It's going to be a wild ride. So with that said, hopefully you have a pretty good idea about how I want this site to sort of operate. I'm also going to be doing on Saturday sort of like a free lecture series. I definitely need to redo all of the lectures that I've done for education programs. I think last time I did some of the lectures was like 10 years ago. So I think the information needs updating. By all means, if you're watching this later on and you're like, oh, what did he say there about Saturdays? It'll either be every Saturday or every second Saturday. I'm not quite sure. But in essence, I'm going to do sort of like, all right, this week we're going to cover price momentum studies. Let's look at RSI this week. All right. What are the 3 things that Brian looks for in RSI? How does Brian use RSI in his day trading? Are there any, rules we can add to our trading plan around information from RSI studies? Next week, it might be, all right, we're going to look at candlesticks this week. All right, how do we use candlesticks in our analysis process? Think of licks. Where does price analysis fall into that licks process? What are some popular patterns that I like to trade? How do you identify fractals? Well, that kind of fun stuff. Gravestone dojis, dragonfly dojis, inside bars, outside bars, haramis, bear ramis, bull ramis, whatever. Next week, it'll be, all right, this particular week, we're going to focus on fundamental analysis, screeners, blah, 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 blah. So that should be like an ongoing running series every Saturday. So maybe just bookmark that. I see we got about 30 people watching the video right now, so that's kind of good. Ideally, we would really like to try and get this number up to 500. So, Google or YouTube, whatever, it has its sort of magic monetization triggering at 500. So if you could all do me a favor, if you guys are not subscribed yet, can you all please just go and subscribe to this? It doesn't cost you anything. If you happen to have friends or family that have Google accounts, if you could just throw them on there. Again, doesn't cost anything. I'm not selling you any product here. It's just I need as much help as I can to get this number above 500 so that we can turn the monetization on. And then what my plan is the special reports that I put out, like I just did one on the January barometer. I will upload those on a delayed basis to the special report section of YouTube. I want to incentivize you to actually join the Substack membership. But we'll have like regular feeds here. So we'll have the weekend, the Sunday show. I suppose we should change that to today's date. And actually, I think this is an old reference, so we need to update this. Chris, maybe when I'm gone with Liam, you could make sure that this video is in this feed here now. Then there should also be a section here of that Saturday educational session. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm hoping for, Anvil, is look at it. Esco is like, you have to look over here and acknowledge us, Brian. You're not supposed to sit there and just talk endlessly for 2 hours. I'm just trying to explain how all this crap works, okay? Oh, Chris is like, refresh this page or the other page? This page? All right, let's see how we've done. My sales pitch. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. And we get like 5 more people. Anyway, hopefully. Oh, and actually, I guess maybe he's changed this stuff around. Hey, there we go. Hey, look at that. Hey, we're getting up close to 300. So we only need, I guess, what, 200 more people? 200? Yeah, I guess that, to hit that monetization. And then this is my idea. And maybe give me some feedback here, Eskimo. This is your opportunity to interact with me. My thinking here is I would like to just open up the super chats for that Saturday broadcast, this broadcast, and I think I will do one. You know, Adam, I think you're on the call, aren't you? I thought I saw you there. You know, Adam's there in Sacramento on the West Coast with me. I wouldn't mind hooking back up with Joe from I think he works at TradingView now, and he's out of Portland. Maybe we could get Shark Toshi. Where the hell's Shark Toshi? I miss him. But he's out of LA. Yeah, maybe we'll do like a Wednesday evening West Coast style crypto show or something like that, and also have it in here. And what I'm thinking is the best way to support that, if you don't feel like doing the Substack, you don't feel like doing the full paid membership to get on the Discord, but you'd like to try and help the cause out, maybe just throw us a super chat one Saturday or one Sunday or one Wednesday session if you found any value out of the various different broadcasts. So that's the plan here going forward. I don't know whether it's going to work or not. I'm going to try my best. That's all you can do. I was quite pleased to see that there was quite a bit of demand for the one-on-one coaching service. So we've got that set up. I have an assistant there helping me there. And we had a great session there yesterday. Was able to put smiles on people's faces while we talked for 3 hours. Can you believe that? Brian talking for 3 hours? Imagine that. So that was a really great session. So I think, you know, on balance, I'm just feeling like we're rocking and rolling here. So on balance, hey, there you go. Eskimo says, promise to join that $17 a month just to support you. So yeah, and I appreciate that. You know, $17 a month, I suppose that's a cost of what, about maybe a cup of coffee a week or something these days. So I don't know whether you can see that in you. That $17 number though is based on the whole sort of like annual subscription kind of thing. So I think that like month by month is like $25 or something like that. So give that some thought. So those are the various different ways that you can support the cause, and hopefully, hope. You don't even really hear any shill from me. All this stuff just operates in the background, and I can just do what is my gift? My gift, I think, is I articulate my message about what I'm seeing in the market, what I'm doing with my money, what, as a financial advisor, what I would suggest you do with your money. Of course, this isn't direct financial advice. We have the disclaimers up at the beginning of the video. And of course, I always tell you, I'll never tell you what to do with your money. You just, I will lay out all of the options. And of course, you make the decision. based on what you feel and your financial advisor feels is most appropriate for you. So there you go. One summary of what the hell I'm doing going forward in a nutshell. Sure hope you enjoyed that. And I think that this YouTube channel, what I would really like to see, everybody, is I'd like to see this YouTube channel. Ideally, I'd like to see this get up to that 100,000 subscribers. Give me one of those cute little plaques. Because this is good, helpful content that helps everybody. I don't really need to sell any of you on anything. What I really just need to do is just be the demonstrator of best practices and just let the content sell itself. So there you go. Okay, Chris did earlier on today put together a little summary of what it is that's going on in the world. You know, with it being early January, I'm not really too jazzed about getting too wrapped up in anything that's going to be driving stuff in the short term. I do, I guess, yeah, in the members lounge here, I was going through John's screener that I showed you there earlier, and I think there are just some absolutely incredible stocks here. I mean, these stocks have this particular stock, Tronox, say that 10 times fast, down at the bottom end of his range. You can see where the top end is. If I come in here at $4, I don't know whether I want to buy this right now, but if I get a nice W that comes in here and the moving averages turn back up, I'm going to get awfully interested in that. And it looks to me like getting a double, selling half on a double, get your original capital back, get that risk-free trade on, and then whatever the hell the damn thing does, great, wonderful. Man, there are really some compelling ideas out there. I suppose we could probably talk a little Bitcoin. I do think that Bitcoin and crypto is looking somewhat firmer here, so I'm feeling a little bit better about that. Have been watching the January barometer very closely here. So this happens to be the first day of the IBIT, and of course, if you want more on that, as I said, I did the big blog post and the video summary of that. And also, hell, there's a half a book of writing here if you want to read about what I'm writing. Got OGs like good old Kavarkanator on here spitting out ideas. And this is what I was kind of hoping to see, is we just have, just good traders sharing good trade ideas. I mean, that chart should speak for itself. Pretty good looking. And, this is in crypto, It doesn't surprise me. You're going to probably see a lot of charts that look like this in crypto here in the not too distant future. There's an old adage in the market: buy when it snows, sell when it goes. And I think that's what's happening right now. It's January. How's the weather back east? You out there in your shorts and t-shirt right now? No. Actually, where was it? Oh, isn't that funny? Usually on a morning basis. Yeah, I come in here and I post. I mean, I don't know whether we want to get into the market analysis yet. And what time is it? Holy Jesus, it's already 1 o'clock. Okay, actually, yeah, I guess we better do. I'm going to have to wind this up here fairly shortly, folks. So I think for today's broadcast, we'll just do a quick overview of, just try and keep in mind that, through the month of January, I have two sort of very specific objectives. Number one, stuff that I had bought as a VCIM ideas, and trying to buy when other people are selling, to look to sell when other people are buying, those kind of names. If I can take profits on those kind of names, maybe you bought some crypto down at the bottom. I know like Pump.Fun was one that put in a cute little W here recently, has been running up. There are a few others. That ZEC ran up quite a bit there into the new year. That kind of stuff. If you did buy some and that tax loss selling sort of pressure is abated and prices are jumping up, for instance, the VCIM stocks that I was buying recently, a lot of them jumped up quite a bit. Like, look at this crazy one, jumped all the way up. I mean, this one here, I bought it at like 17 cents or 18 cents. worked its way all the way up to 29 cents there, right at the very end of the year when the tax loss selling window closed. This little guy here, I was buying it at like 10, 11, jumped all the way up to 17 cents here. I mean, geez, that's 50%. This funny little one here, I was buying down here in the 20, 30 cent area, jumped all the way up to 39 cents right out of the gate. So that's the kind of, if I can take profits, none of these have doubled yet. The Super Spaz came, I guess the Lux Folio here came pretty close. But if I can bang out doubles, then I might do it also. I mean, I suppose anybody who had bought that, where the hell is that one? Over here. Anybody who had bought the ZEC, I don't think it's quite doubled yet. Where was that level? 347. We're getting up there. 549 we've already worked out. You know, if you had the balls to step in off of these through that very soft window, through that tax loss selling window, and prices have worked their way back up and you can take some profits, great. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's sort of strategy number one in this kind of environment in January. But more importantly, and I think this is where I really want to drive this home, is January for us should be we want to observe. Usually a lot of institutional players, 1%, higher ups, all that, they put a lot of capital to work in January. And really our job as sort of traders, you know, kind of like where we want to make money from trading, we kind of want to just watch how they're behaving. Thomas BK7BV. Hi, Brian. Good to see you. TRI vet here since 2017. Right on. Well, good to see you. I do see quite a few people coming out of the woodwork supporting me, so I really appreciate that from all of you people. The Prince says, oh, he's talking to another person. You sign up for a Trading with Brian subscription on Substack, then you get a link to the Discord. All right, thank you, the Prince. So you guys are already helping me. Appreciate it. Do you have any plans for the token launch for the token you launched a few months ago? No, but you know, the funny thing is, I mean, FYI, I'm an open book. I got nothing to bullshit with any of you. Guess who just keeps buying? Here I am. I just, in fact, actually this site, Deck Screener, it lost my old chart. So I lost all those buys. But I just am in here buying away, buying. So I'm up to about 9.6477% of the total supply. And the deal was, and literally what I do is I just come on here. I've got a little bit of Solana just sitting there, and just randomly every day I'll just come in and buy. All right, let's go buy another 0.01 and bought. And I just keep nibbling away here. Although, though, I probably shouldn't be paying up for this. Somebody is bidding up this, which makes no sense. What the hell are you people doing? And maybe, you know, this might actually be a really good anecdote of tax loss selling as well. But I don't know. You tell me, whoever asked that, who asked that question? CZXDS. Am I a man of my word? You tell me. Have I been? I said I was going to accumulate this thing. So you tell me, have I been accumulating this thing since it was launched? And I've been very consistent about this. I'll just keep nibbling away. I'm just buying, and I'm not going to stop buying until I have a controlling stake in this. I don't think I can really do much with about 10% of the supply. I'm not exactly sure how these cryptos work, to be perfectly blunt with you, 15 freaking years into this. But that is me right there on there. But I've actually moved most of the coins off of the exchange. So if you see me there and you go, God, the guy's only got less than 1%, that's not true, right? I've actually moved most of the coins completely off the exchange. They're sitting in cold storage. And now I've actually got to update that again. In fact, actually, thank you for reminding me. I probably have too many coins on there now, and I should probably get those, move those coins off to a safer place. 7 million now. Wow. So to answer your question, and that's a good question, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with this. What I would like to do, ideally, in an ideal world, is actually get all of you to buy all of your goods and services that you're going to buy off of me through this thing. But that, I still think that's at least a year or two away. And what I'd also like to do, and now that I'm completely on my own, I'm going to basically, and the sad part about it is, I think that JoJo's plan originally was that this was supposed to buy Liam his house. But unfortunately, I gave 2/3 of this capital away like an idiot. But, it is what it is. But basically, I'm going to do exactly this. And I think into that 2032 to 2035 window is going to be the exact same type of environment that this can happen. So, all know my, 17 and a half year fear greed cycles. You can refer to the Benner cycle. It's the same sort of image. But in essence, the next window where you can do this absolute stupid kind of nonsense of turning like no money into bazillions of dollars just by just being a little old lady and just having yourself well positioned and managing orders consistently, I think is the window from 2032 to 2035. And what I would expect is at that point, hopefully, I can figure out a way to connect the value of this asset to an actual portfolio. And if any of you watching this video know how to do this now, please get in contact with me. And then we just let, as soon as we can mark this asset and I control enough of it that we don't have nefarious people coming in and fucking around with price just because they're jerks, then theoretically we can create basically a closed-end mutual fund. And the value of this coin should be directly tied to whatever the value of the collective portfolio is. So that's my goal, but I don't think the goal hits its apex until 2032 to 2035. And I might argue that what I should be doing is taking the next, 2026? So basically taking the next 4 or 5 years and accumulating a controlling position in this, finding somebody who can connect this Solana token to the value of a wallet and literally create that closed-end fund. So if any of you watching this know how to do this, you can make some pretty damn good money getting founder shares of closed-end funds. I'm more than happy to share the wealth. If anything, I share too much of the wealth. But to get this project to fruition, I'm definitely willing to farm out a good, obviously not a huge chunk, but a chunk to make sure that this thing actually comes to fruition. So anyway, keep your eyes peeled, and that's my answer to you. No, there isn't any short-term objectives here for this. I'm still in the accumulation mode, and I should be for the next at least a year. And my hunch is probably in about 1 year's time is actually when I'm going to be starting to do the get your shit together rants at all of you that it is now time to get ready for whatever the 2030 mini cycle in Bitcoin is going to look like. And crypto. I mean, here's the pump.fun. I mean, W's are W's are W's. There's no reason why you couldn't have bought this at, what is that? 1900? You're up, 20, 25% on your money right now. I mean, it was there. Traders got to trade. So anyway, this is another good example. Like I said, the My role right here in January is to farm names like this. I did most of my investing in the stock market because I was leaving TRI and all that. And I actually do have a Kraken account set up, but I haven't funded it yet. And I do like the idea that, remember, buy in the middle of February, sell the middle of May. I like the next buy window in this space to open up somewhere the middle of February. So that's what I'm kind of thinking my target is. I'm not going to chase something like that, but could I very easily see this, up and then down and then into February we get a pullback, some sort of cycle low, January barometer, blah blah blah, and I'll do my buying through there. In fact, it filled my heart the other day. A gentleman that I have a lot of respect for. He was my old show producer. Did an absolutely incredible Bitcoin trade there through the sickness. It was cool being back in the lounge with him at the TwB Discord, and us basically back in 2000, the winter of 2016. We were sitting there just hunting shitcoins in the lounge together, and I'd just been jilted by this chick who I thought I was going to have like a nice Valentine's Day with, which totally landed flat on its face. And he and I were just sitting there, just all right, let's go find shit coins to buy and bury your sorrows in the market rather than taking it to the bottle or something. Anyway, so I actually think we're going to head into almost exactly a carbon copy of that environment again in a weird sort of way. The good part about this year is that, like a lot, I think this link is probably a good example. A little bit bummed that I didn't sneak my way in here, but it didn't quite get low enough for me to get too excited. This is a 4-hour chart. I think if you look at the daily charts, that chart should speak for itself. At some point, this thing's going to be back up here. Also, a really good anecdote of wicks and tails need to be eaten. Oh, gee whiz, they had to bring price right back down. Basically, eat a good chunk of that tail and then go and put in a bottom and rally. And what I do like here is, again, that thinking that I like the idea that there's some sort of trough in the market in early February, reflecting sort of the anxiety around the end of the year in the United States. And I'm going to be hunting, obviously, reload zones to try and sneak my way in. So this is a really good example of a name I really do want to acquire for TwB going forward. When I get that Kraken account up and running and funded, I'm definitely going to be laser beam focused on trying to sneak my way in on this guy. So that's actually a pretty good anecdote of the market. If we look at things like the total crypto market, same sort of thing. I drew these squiggly lines on here like a month ago. There's nothing new whatsoever. Obviously, I've polished them up a little bit to make the image a little easier to read. But I don't see any reason why anything changes here. Big tail had to be eaten. If anything, what I see here is it looks like this is going to be like maybe a big inverted head and shoulders. Maybe something along the lines of boom, 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 boom. All right, with sound effects and all. I do like the idea that the market needs to find some sort of floor there. What did I say there? Probably late January, early February, somewhere down in that area there. So I'd be thinking something along those lines. Hopefully that aligns with that link image that I just showed you. You're starting to see a little bit of similarities here. Gotta blow my schnoz. I'll be right back. All right, I got about 20 minutes left, and then I have to absolutely get the hell out of here. So, not really anything out of the ordinary here. You can see previously I drew a circle here on the chart. It's kind of hard to see. with the head and shoulders drawing. Let's get rid of that. Oops. So this was my objective. I thought they were going to bring the market up here into this trend line. I wouldn't be surprised if we have to hit this 2.618. And I also wouldn't be surprised. I can't remember what this trend line is drawn off of. I think it's an important, yeah, some old highs. So I think this is a relevant pivot line here for the market. I think it was off of a few historic levels, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. I don't know. Yeah, maybe this could be crisped up a little bit. Let's see. It's drawn off of. Okay, so it's a pivot high to pivot low. Seems perfectly realistic. So where was that guy? That was this line here. So I like the idea of a rally up into this trend line resistance. There's 38.2, 200 SMA. Remember, we talked about this trend line forever all last year. This was the magic line that defined whether it was a bull or bear. As soon as it lost that, it really puked out central. You can clearly see this image, the effect of that tax loss selling driven selling. And then literally as soon as the tax loss selling window closed, just like a vacuum, right? Path to least resistance, boom, straight up. Wasn't even really like there was a flood of sellers. I think a flood of buyers. I think what ended up happening here was there just was no buyers. And I couldn't figure out why anybody would buy crypto through here. I still, no offense, but I still can't really justify being long a lot of these stories. But I suppose, there is the staking rewards and all that. And if you feel like we're at some sort of technical bottom, then this staking can be kind of perceived as a dividend kind of idea. So, maybe you stake and then the market moves higher, you get rewarded. And then when the market exhausts itself, you unstake and let those go. Who knows? I don't think that this is a straight line. And, that head and shoulders pattern, I think there's going to be a bunch of back and forth here. And then, we've got that big celestial event on the 7th. You think it's an accident these markets are rallying into that event? I don't think so. I wouldn't also be surprised if crude oil actually has been working its way lower, but actually hit some sort of apex event there through that celestial event. I don't think that's an accident either. So on balance here, I think we are building into that. I think, what you see in the streets of Iran is probably going to hit some sort of apex into the 7th of January there, 7th, 8th. Hell, you might even see the shit hit the fan in China itself. Tough to say, but you never know. I do find it fascinating that the Venezuelans themselves, they really didn't have a hell of a lot of interest in defending this Maduro guy. So he went down, he folded like a house of cards. How does the old line go? He folded like a hooker punched in the stomach by a fat man with spots on his face. Isn't that how it goes? Man. So talk about an easy win for the United States of America. And the irony of it all is, Vladdy over there sitting there going, son of a bitch, good Jim. That just goes to show what happens when you invest in technology in your military versus, we'll just we'll shell them into the Stone Age like we did back in World War II with our 10,000 rusty tanks. How's that going for you? Anyway, so market caught a nice bid, and actually I haven't put social media messages out. Looks like market wants to move higher here. So I don't think there's really anything shocking out of all that. I think we're coming into resistance here. So not a big surprise. Also fog and bombs. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're near some sort of rally apex here in the near term. as I said, like the link has moved up nicely, banged into a pretty powerful fog and bomb here. We might pop all the way up into here. Doesn't really matter. What I'll do here is I'm just going to simply drag my reload zone tool, and wherever the ultimate top is at that point, notice reload zone. Man, notice how I had the little circle-y circle there on the reload zone off of this high. And then, I don't know, maybe we rally up here. But notice that reload zone didn't move a hell of a lot. I'll still work my bid at that 78.6. So whatever the dump is here into the end of January, remember thinking January is an information source for us. We really want to listen to the market. Remember, I'm a commodities trader. I buy my unleaded the middle of February, not January, the middle of February. Why? Because January often has a soft period into the end of the month, reflecting what September, October often looks like in the stock market. Think January barometer. And also, too, we know November 8th, 2026 is going to be one hell of a day in U.S. history. So put it all together. I don't think you need to chase these markets here in the near term. I think, if anything, it's encouraging. For God's sakes, we're finally getting some bullish price action. The bulls are actually still alive here. It's a freaking miracle. And now what we want to do is just simply wait for our setups to start producing acceptable trade location, producing acceptable indicator information, producing acceptable price structure, and away we go and just do our thing. So hopefully that gives you context. We'll finish off this broadcast here with just a review of the old corn in the near term. Start with the weekly chart. Actually, I didn't even put out my weekly Bitcoin summary chart here today. I completely forgot about that. Oh, well, go figure. Anyway, weekly price chart, not a heck of a lot of change here. We dumped into bot targets, 38.2s, big nodes on the volume profile. I think we had like A, B, C, Ds. That's what these bot levels are. You could argue we did reload zones off of this particular range. And like I said, this is 38.2 off of the massive range. Bottoms of megaphones. I think everything here made sense. They ripped the Band-Aid off. They caught all the public who FOMO chased. They all got absolutely destroyed here. They're either sitting on their hands right now, praying to God. Wicks and tails like to be. There's a ton of trap bulls in all of these wicks that probably want to get released. Ironically enough, anybody who is really going to sell Bitcoin and, is that speculative type person, I think they got flushed out through this. That's what it feels like. It is interesting, too, to see that they could not close this thing any lower than this closed bar here, 86.03. I've said repeatedly, Mr. Fink, this asset, unfortunately, now I do believe has been securitized. So really, it's at the mercy of Wall Street now. The only thing Bitcoin really cares about to stay alive and keep doing its thing is it's just got to stay above the cost of production. Is the cost of production for a Bitcoin right now 91 fucking grand? No. Any fool that comes out and says that it is, they're idiots. So actually, I was even talking to a guy right now who really loved my Eclipse chart, and I told him, well, the only thing that's missing is I need some sort of cost of production script. So maybe we can find people to produce cost of production scripts and overlay them, and then we'll have like the ultimate cheat sheet. But Mr. Fink came on the scene here, like way over here. So as long as Bitcoin stays above this level, he doesn't give a rat's ass. He's not losing any money. And all of the people that he conned into buying his paper, they're not losing any money. As long as the price stays above this level where he brought the thing to market, he's happy as a pig in shit. So, I mean, look at the number here. That's like 40,000. That's less than half of where we are right now. I think I've told you before, what I think is going to happen here is, and you've probably seen this ad nauseum. And I've got 9 minutes and then I have to get the hell out of here. So we better make this quick. I do like the idea that, they've got everybody going, oh, it's the end, it's all going to zero, it sucks, blah, blah, blah. I think that was tax driven, very cliche. I think the dead cat bounce back to things like big fat round numbers, pump chaser zones. And actually, it's interesting too. I put out a tweet. I was talking to, well, at least I DM'd, but he hasn't replied back, which is a bit scary. A Venezuelan who I wanted to see how he was doing and whether he was happy about what was happening there. I guess the point that I wanted to make about that was that he actually worked with me a million years ago on this this concept called MUOC. And MUOC actually Spanish. He was the one who created it, and it stands for KISS. But it's not this chart. I don't know which one it is that I had it on. I think it was maybe. Oh well. Anyway, not really that relevant. I think actually I tweeted it out, so might be on the tweet. Yeah, here. So I think you can make a pretty good, compelling argument for a revisit of the big fat round number. It's just psychological, nothing more, nothing less. 2.618 up there at about 98. 38.2 up to 50, 98 all the way up to 103. A revisit of previous market structure fail level, think Wyckoff check. And also to, Feigenbaum's, as I said, 2.618 on one side. There's David and his Feigenbaum midpoint, which we always see the market trade to, sitting just above 100,000. I might even argue that this whole area on the profile needs filling in. It's empty. And of course, this is the sweet spot of that profile, the MUOC. And of course, use your imagination, all you warm-blooded males out there, and I suppose warm-blooded females, some warm-blooded houseplants. Why would we call this KISS? Actually, I suppose, well, we don't need to go down there. Anyway, so the point here is I would not be surprised if through the spring, Bitcoin works its way all the way back up, and we probably even trade all the way up to the top of this node up here. Coming in on the buy side up here, though, I think is absolutely disastrous. And of course, 877 is our classic no-brainer, sell everything, get the fuck out of the market if you ever see that level hit. Thanks, Craig. He always chimes in on that when we're day trading futures contracts. So looks to me like path of least resistance is up, not down. I suppose we could probably also draw another trend line off of this low, which I did on a different chart, but I didn't put it on this tweet. And I think you could argue that this market is range bound between that triangle. So let's see. That's weird. I thought actually, you know where I think it is? I think it's over. Not on this list. You can see I'm starting to update my list. Is it over here? Yeah, there it is. So my hunch here is that the trend is something like that. Did I do this right? Yeah. So there to there to there. So I think the market for the time being, and of course, if this changes, maybe next Sunday it'll look different. I actually think that is our trading range. So welcome to your new range. I try and buy along trend line support, and of course that'll be reload zones, buy against lows, blah blah blah. If you're lucky, we might even get like a nice violent dip against this trend line here, and then a snapback and recapture that trend wedge. I could easily see that. Another way to look at this is I am thinking that this is a billiard ball fractal, which is a little bit esoteric, but try and bear with me here. You can even see on the 4 hours, things are getting a little bit overbought. Willie's almost stupid. You can see the bear div is starting to form here. Well, you can even see on the 30-minute chart, we're starting to look very toppy up here. So by no means is this going to be straight line. And if anything, what I think is going to happen here, this is what I think they're doing, is they're forming what's called a billiard ball fractal. And you probably heard me talk about Casey and his bow tie over the years. There's sort of the middle of the bow tie, and then this is sort of the left-hand side of the bow tie, and this is the right-hand side of the bow tie. And we're like super volatile, but we compress into this. Then you notice the volatility comes right out of price, and then we express it on the other side just as violently. And hopefully that makes perfect sense. That's a whole bunch of spaghetti. But anyway, you can see I took this price action here and I just basically cloned it and just overlaid it right over the middle of this fun little consolidation window, and it gives you this pattern. And if you actually look into math, there is a very specific theory that says, how does random work? And random actually is not actually that random after all. Random actually has a very predictable pattern. They call it billiard ball theory. So I think that we're working our way up against these highs right now, kind of coming out of the other side of this bottom here. And that's where we are right here. Then we're going to have to go boovy boo, and we're going to have to work our way back down, and we may have to take these lows out just to screw as many retail people as possible and revisit that downtrend line, like I said there a second ago off that other chart. So don't be shocked if you actually see that come up. That's a very typical of billiard ball price action. And then if we put it into context with all my conversation about January barometer and how our job through January is, yes, if you bought in here, farm and, take your profits. We're here to make money from trading and all that. But really don't get married with the price action in January, because remember what happens usually the second half of the year in the stock market. What do we know coming up in November? Is Taco an honorable, reputable guy? Well, that's another conversation altogether. So could he and his minions take advantage of what appears to be a bull market to go and fuck the public over and steal a bunch of their money? You better believe it. So don't be shocked heading into the end of January. Remember, buy our own letter the middle of February, not the middle of January. Don't be shocked if there is some sort of dip here into the end of January. And I think that, like what I showed you on the link, that actually sets up your really sexy buying opportunity coming the end of the month here, heading into February. So that's sort of my feeling here. If somebody was going to ask Brian, what's your 2 cents? What do you think is going to happen here over the next few weeks? I'm thinking still a little bit more up into that January 7th pivot. Might be some wild fireworks around that event. Then kind of like almost like this is like a buy the rumor, then sell the news, bit of a vacuum around that. That will reflect all the uncertainty around what the second half of the stock market and U.S. society is going to look like heading into that November election. And then once that anxiety is sort of relieved, I think then we can actually start looking for sort of seasonal bottoms, getting ready for that very typical, sell when it goes, sell in May and walk away, sell around Brian's birthday, blah, 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 sort of normal pattern in the market. All right. So first half of today's broadcast was shill, shill, shill. Welcome to Brian's new playpen. Great to have you all on board. Everybody get loaded up on the Substack paid membership here so I can pay all these good people that I have as support staff around me. And I don't go backwards. And if I'm in a nice positive frame of mind, I've got a support staff around me, then I can just fucking PMA the shit out of you people. Do as many free broadcasts on YouTube, as much positive karmic help for the universe as possible, not looking for anything in return, just have the nut covered. And, Monday to Friday, I just go about my regular business, just running my own portfolios and managing my own money. So 1 + 1 = 3. Let's all work together to pull this dream off. Of course, as always, let's get this number on YouTube up above 500. And I'd love to see if I'm doing these shows, you guys see some value in this, a super chat here, a super chat there. A subscribe here, a subscribe there. Try and keep the bus moving forward. If anything, I would prefer to have a bigger staff that I can employ people and actually make a positive difference in their direct lives than padding my accounts with big profits from social media, ad campaigns, and all that crap. That doesn't motivate me. What motivates me here is how can I make the most positive difference in whatever time the good Lord still has left to give me, and then when I'm done, I get to go be with JoJo and I can rest in peace. But until then, we have the boy to service. So wish me luck on the roads and putting him in absolute best frame of mind possible. Wish me luck and all that, dealing with the insanity of what China has turned into. Would love to see you on the site. And of course, all my, anyway, I'll leave it at that. I'm already overdue. So I think without further ado, I better get the hell out of here. The only thing left to say to you good people is, Casey, you know what? We got to get you on the site. If all of you guys want to pile in through Emerson, totally fine by me. I don't care. But the point here is I want Casey. I want you on the inside of the Substack Discord. You and Meg. So just get set up on the Substack. DM me and get you over there. Okay. Because you got to be on the inside of that Substack. Why you're not, I'm not quite sure. And you and your wife, and the little dog too. All right, so here comes the line. Remember what your number one job is. Don't take no wooden nickels. What else am I supposed to say here? PMA for the win. 1 + 1 = 3. Thank you so much, Chris, for being an absolute awesome support in my life. Wish me luck on the road with Liam. And let's take on this world and conquer it. All right. Slow and steady wins the race. There's also that too. No speeding. All right. All the best and bye for now. Now, how the hell do I turn this damn thing off?
I just ended it. I don't know, to be honest with you. I just ended it on the YouTube page.
Yeah, okay.